Okay, this is going to be about predictive programming, both real and imagined. And this is my disclaimer. This is an age-restricted channel, so if you're not 18, get off of it. YouTube makes me do this. So I'm going to cover two books that have predictive programming that came about accidentally in both cases, although the second one was tweeted and made whole by a confluence of events that people can't explain, yet I figured it out. Okay, so there was a book written 14 years before this Titanic sunk, and it was called The Wreck of the Titan or Futility. And these are the similarities between the Titanic and the Titan. The Titan's length was 800 feet. The Titanic was 832. They both had a triple screw propeller on them. The Titan had 24. The fictional Titan had 24 lifeboats. The Titanic had 20. Both were considered unsinkable. It was written in newspapers at the time that God himself could not sink the Titanic. Well, don't tempt God. When they struck the iceberg, in the book, the Titan struck it at 25 knots, and the Titanic actually struck it at 22.5 knots. They both were sunk 400 nautical miles from Newfoundland. They were both British owned, and both of their capacities was 3,000 passengers. So there you go. There are the similarities. Here's some pictures. This lady here is Molly Brown. Many of you can remember the musical The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Well, that was named after her being on the Titanic. If you don't remember the musical, she led a kind of exciting life. And here's where they were as they were building it there. Now, I actually had a lot of relatives, and here's a picture of 2 of the 3 screws. There would have been another one. This one was in the center, and then one on each side. I had some relatives that actually worked, some 3rd and 4th uncles. I guess it would be 6th and 7th uncles because it was so far back. But a little funny story here. So if you volunteered to become a riveter, they gave you an extra nickel a day because you would become deaf within about a week, or almost deaf. So but you would also be employed for life doing it. So a lot of people chose to become a riveter and lose their hearing. The poor people in Ireland that would do that. And there's a drawing of the iceberg, and there was iceberg warnings. And here's one of the staterooms, and they had lots and lots of amenities. Here's a picture of the telegraphman, the wireless telegraph. And so that's all interesting and everything. The guy that wrote the book, The Titan, he'd studied the lines, and that one was a coincidence. Titan, Titanic, that's close. But I want to bring up another one that I kind of alluded to in a Facebook post, and it had to do, there's a series of novels that came out called the Baron Trump novels, and they came out, there was a couple of them, and they came out in 1889 and 1893 by Ingersoll Lockhart. And it was the secondary title. They always had like multiple titles of all these books, and the secondary title of the second book was The Last President. So this takes place, the uprising in New York. There's like an incident that happens, and you can get the book. It's basically free online. You could read it, and somebody it came to attention in 2017. Somebody in the press discovered it. Well, I think it was discovered a long time before that. So in the novel, the last president, his name is Baron Trump, and he's advised by a man named Don. And the uprising where most of this stuff takes place starts at the Fifth Avenue Hotel. Well, Donald Trump demolished the Fifth Avenue Hotel and built the Trump Hotel that you see now. So everybody started bringing this up after he became president and the similarities and blah, blah, blah. Well, they started work on the Trump thing in 1979. Remember, he was already a billionaire at the time, and people would come up to curry favor with him. And they probably came up to him and said, hey, did you know that there's and you knew there's a couple of bibliophiles, that people like me that just studied weird stuff and would come up to him and try to curry favor with this mogul developer, and said, hey, yeah, there's this book that comes out, and his name is Barron Trump, and he's it's in this place right where you just are building this hotel. So they told him the story, so he heard it. Well, his children had already, basically both of his sons had already been born, but I'm sure he kept that in the back of his mind. And when he remember Barron Trump, I believe he's not even 18 yet. I believe he's like 16. Probably in the back of his mind, when somebody told him about this, he kept that in mind. Remember, Trump as he was growing up, his father took him to the church where Norman Vincent Peale, the power positive thinking guy, was. And he talks about how positive thinking, Norman Vincent Peale's teaching shaped him real. He said, going to church, you were mad when it was over, he said. So I think somewhere in the back of his mind, Donald Trump didn't think that he was going to become president, but he thought maybe his son would. And so when Melania gave birth, he pressed upon it that he's going to be called Barron Trump. And I think it was so he could, use this book as like a prequel, if you will, or use it to leverage people's expectations, let's say, much like a lot of people use stuff in Nostradamus to, they say that Hitler was mentioned in Nostradamus's writings, when it actually says the man beyond the hister. And so people can see things that aren't there. Do I think this is prophetic? No, I don't, because Barron Trump is not president. Donald Trump is president. Now, like I said, the guy that advises Barron Trump in the novels is a man named Don. And so that's how I think this came to pass. I think Donald Trump actually picked his name after somebody came up, and probably several people came up that were bibliophiles in New York, to curry favor with a billionaire and stroke his, probably just to get him to meet him at the time, because he was still a famous guy. And they got to meet with him. Oh, this guy knows about this book that says that you're gonna have there's a Barron Trump that's gonna be president. There's a guy named Don, and it stroked his ego. But I think in the back of his mind, he was planting the seeds of maybe his son becoming president. I don't know that he had the hubris to think that he would be president at the time, although several times he mentioned that he didn't want to run for president, but if somebody didn't step up, he would do it. So anyway, I think that's the explanation for the Barron Trump novels and the how Donald Trump named his son Barron. I think he was planting the seeds for his son to be president, and using that book to hopefully get a little leverage into people that were going to study that superstitious thing. So the only true prophets are the prophets of God. He's the one that makes stuff happen from the end to the beginning, because he's all powerful. Some people can guess stuff pretty good. If you look at Jules Verne predicted a lot of science stuff because he had all the base knowledge at hand and just put the next step together. H.G. Wells was more into social programming, but he hooked up with the Fabian Society, and you can see the social programming in H.G. Wells, even though a lot of people look to him as more science fiction. Jules Verne is the true predictive science guy. But anyway, that's where I think that the Barron Trump, why it's a little bit different. I think Donald Trump actually heard this and decided to name his last kid Barron Trump. Another thing I'd like to point out, a lot of people don't know this, but when Nikola Tesla died, the government went into his hotel and seized all his work. That work involved scalar technology, stuff that we're just now using. Tesla's been given credit for discovering the radio. They took it away from Marconi and gave it to him, as it should have been. Several of Edison's inventions were stuff he just stole from Tesla, writing him letters about stuff over the years. When they took Tesla's writings, they gave it to the smartest guy, electrical engineer they had at MIT, who happened to be named John Trump, and it was Donald Trump's uncle, and he mentions it several times. So there's the the key there that links Tesla and Trump a little bit. And anyway, thank you. I'm out. Please like, share, and subscribe. And there's my cat, Field Marshal Rommel. I haven't put him in a video in a while. He's doing good. He's about 15 now. Thank you. I'm out.